Thank you so much to Prof. Sima, and that's really exciting for us all to be able to go on an AI course. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the founder of ngoLAW, Nicole Copley, who is a specialist legal consultant to the nonprofit sector for close to 30 years. Nicole is a master tax practitioner, lawyer, author, and publisher of NGO Matters, a series of practical guides for nonprofits. She's passionate about building and supporting sustainable and credible nonprofit organizations. Nicole is the founder, as I've already said, which is of ngoLAW, and it's a one-stop shop which is providing with an experienced, efficient support team for NGOs. And she and her team help all sizes of NGOs to register, comply, upgrade, govern, and navigate legal requirements. And we are very pleased to have her with us, on the topic of the day with regard to the nomination process that James introduced yesterday at the close of the conference. So without much ado, I'm going to hand you over to Nicole, who will take you through what we are looking at from a stakeholder-driven governance model. Thank you. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Roxana. I'm honored and excited to be in this room that I've been invited in, and I think I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you so I can make sure that everything is there. All good. Great. Can you all see? So I have this morning been entrusted with a small piece of time to lay before you all and hopefully shepherd forward into the future a crucial and fundamental decision for the PSET CLOUD. And just a quick look here at getting us all onto the same page in terms of the process and what's been happening so far. I think at last count, there were climbing towards 100 people in the room. So there are quite a lot of people here, and we might all be in different stages of catching up with this process and what's been going on in the background. So just a brief look at these phases. So this is phase one, is sort of was the dreaming phase, the testing phase, the consulting phase, the making sure everybody was participating. And also there was kind of, it's a custodial phase one, in which there were stakeholders identified, and what is being referred to now as the reference group was established, kind of shepherd the process and the work of the PSET CLOUD forward. Phase two is around taking next steps to establish some sort of governance structure for the system and in terms of legal entity, and building on the foundation which has been laid by the reference group. We've chosen the term, we'll use it a couple of times today, launch group, for the group which we hope will come out of this process today. We've specifically used the word launch group just to show that it's an interim group that will be appointed, and that's part of how we're structuring it, what we're trying to structure it going forward. Phase three will go beyond today, and in phase three, what we hope will happen is that there will be a legal governance structure that's chosen and constructed to be the home and the foundation for the PSET CLOUD, and that will take PSET CLOUD forward into the future, having a credible legal existence and something which outlasts those who are currently involved. So, and ensure that it survives, that it thrives, it can grow, and it can deliver. Okay, so and of course this is where we are here too. We're right at phase two, which is taking the next steps and going from a movement, a loose alliance of some sort into the established and empowered part of the process. Okay, so there's not a long to-do list for this session, thankfully. Some background and context, which we've already been talking about. If anybody has any questions around the background or the context or what we're doing today, please just put them in the questions and they'll be picked up and shown to me. figuring out what we need to decide, hopefully agreeing on the need to set up and empower the interim launch group, and then requesting the conference delegates who are here to endorse this process. Just want to make it clear that not on the list today, we won't be going into the detailed discussion today of the various options of legal structures. There's been quite a bit of background work and research work done on that already. But in terms of choosing the best legal structure to house the PSET Cloud and choosing the people who are going to be in charge of that ultimate structure, that's not what we're about today. We're taking an interim step today in empowering another group to go forward with that. Okay, so just stepping back into the background and context somewhat, this is a visual representation of the stakeholders who've been engaged, drawn upon, spoken to, referenced so far in this first phase that's been going on. And I don't know if you can read all of the writing in terms of the groups, but these slides will be available later if anybody wants to look at them. And the summary on the right is of these groupings is the kind of four fundamental parts of this whole ecosystem is citizens, civil society, public society, and then private sector. And the kind of acronym is the CC times PPP, which is another shorthand for what we hope will be the launch group. And the idea is that the launch group will represent a range from all of these four parts of the sector. Okay, so today our next steps are essentially about making the circle bigger. So taking it from reference group as kind of the visionaries, the people who've been consulted so far, the people who've been drawn in, and engaging with a broader group and giving voices to more stakeholders in the next part of the process. Okay, so the tasks for today is that we will be putting up shortly a poll towards everybody at the conference to endorse or not, and there'll be options on that poll. You'll see when you engage with it. These three steps. The one is to launch with a nomination process in terms of which people are nominated from those stakeholder groupings in order to join the launch group. Then the second part of that we would want endorsed is that the current reference group as it exists reviews the nominations that come in and selects those who will form a balanced, credible body as part of the launch group. Then the launch group will be empowered also in terms of the determination we make today, if it is endorsed, to make those decisions on governance and legal structures for the PSET Cloud, just to make sure that it's firmly established and we have a fundamental entity to take it forward. Looking forward into the future, if, of course, this first step today is endorsed, these things will build one upon another. The reference group is going to consider by the 12th of April 22 nominations in terms of transparent criteria, which will be shared with everybody, and additional members will be selected to make that group bigger and to create the launch group. So the current reference group we absorbed into this large group to be called the launch group. There's going to be wider representativity that will be involved in this launch group, and the crux of it will be representativity in terms of CC and PPP. Then the aim is we're looking towards a date of 10 May 22, when the launch group, as selected by the reference group, will have its first meeting. And from that first meeting, start with discussions, further research, commissioning advice, and setting towards being able to empower themselves to decide on and then set up the legal structure and then also the governance models and systems to oversee the PSET Cloud. Okay, so it's just about, as I've said, taking it from something that's loose and dreamy and exciting, and now we're at this kind of transition point where we're pushing it into the future and saying, let's make this thing happen, and let's find a practical way for everybody to voice their opinions and to give us their vote in terms of endorsing this process. Okay, so these are the things that will happen if you do give us the endorsement today to go forward. And the poll that will shortly be put up, and if there are any questions, please do let us know about this process. We'll ask these questions. Does the conference endorse these proposed next steps? What we're looking for is for there to come out of this conference a groundswell of support, hopefully, that will give legitimacy, that will give credibility, that will show the reach and the potential impact and the support behind this movement that is becoming the PSET cloud and establishing a legal entity for it. I don't know, I'm not on my screens, I can't see yet whether the poll has actually gone up. And there are, I should be getting a, here we go. Yes, it's been put up, everybody. And it looks like there are votes already coming in. There are 2 minutes left. Okay. So 88%, I'm getting 88% of those who have voted have fully supported. And I'm just waiting for some more feedback on how many people have voted. Please, the last that I heard, there were near like 80-something people in the room. We really would like all of you to vote. Even if you'll see there are various options on partially supported, some refinement is needed, fully supported, not supported, or preferring to abstain from the voting. But it would be great if we could get a real representation of the people in the room. Okay, so at the moment, there is a minute left of voting. They're not playing your music, I don't think, so you've got to keep listening to my voice, encouraging you to vote and participate. And please all do vote. Sorry, I'm looking to see whether there are questions. Roxana, are you there in terms of the questions as well? If I can just call you back into the room. I don't know if you're getting the questions.
I am getting them. If you want me to assist you with that, I can.
Yeah, so I've just seen one question here from Mustaq Ali. Calling, should the call not be going wider than this conference, Roxana? Your input on that?
Sure. I think that's a very important question. So as Nicole, you have presented the process. We want to confirm that we have a reference group who has been part of the PSET Cloud, and we've met a few times, and who have gone and thoroughly through the publication on the governance models that were researched. And we had that presentation yesterday. So I know that the slide is on the screen, and I'm hoping that delegates can hear me. Okay, so yeah, just to clarify the question that was asked by Mustaq Ali about how wide we are going with the process of nomination. This is a build on to the presentation on governance from yesterday, where the researchers of the governance model, the publications on the PSET Cloud website, as well as the JET website, were presented. Nicole, you've taken us through this process of there's the reference group. We now want to move into a launch group. The launch group would then advise as to what the structure of that PSET Cloud governance that would be taken up going forward. As far as the process of nomination for the launch group, I think you've very clearly articulated that it would be on the PSET Cloud website, and it's open for a period of at least 1 month. It's more than 3 weeks for nominations to come in. There's a selection process, and you very nicely gave us the dates of the timeframes of when that nomination process will be completed, and a group of people with yourself as an independent would be looking at the nominations, and then there'll be a consolidation of who would be sitting in the launch group. But that launch group is not the formal governance structure of the PSET Cloud. They would then be in charge of and responsible for ensuring that an appropriate, relevant governance structure is in place.
Yes. And Roxana,
yes.
And I mean that the idea of that launch group is that it's representative of all of the players and all of the parts of the ecosystem, and so those voices will be brought into the room through that launch group, and that is why. So just as a part of the answer, Mustaq, to your question, is that what we're looking for an endorsement here for is not the launch group itself, it's not the people, it's not the legal structure, it's just that we can take this through the next step, so that we're not forever stuck in the initial excitement, dream, consultation phase, so that it can move forward into something that has its own life and its own existence and a proper legal fundament underneath it. And then, of course, the launch group is going to be involved in consulting and consulting back to the sectors who they represent. And as, thank you, Roxana, as Roxana said, the nominations, of course, won't be restricted to people who are in this room now. There is going to be a period, the call will go out, it'll be publicized, it'll be on the website. Those of you who are in the room, spread the word, please. Get others involved, get others excited. I mean, I don't understand half of what has been said in terms of the tech terms, but I'm very excited. I think that this is, and I think that there's been, listening to the presentations yesterday, there is just this feeling of, wow, this is a moment that we have in history to make this thing happen. Let's bring it together. So I think, Mustaq, one does, and those of you who are, I know, one does want, it has to be done properly, and it has to be done in terms of being properly, credibly endorsed, and there has to be transparency, and there has to be accountability. But one has to balance that too with moving forward. And sometimes one can get stuck and want absolutely every single thing and get into a little knot around that. But I think we're trying to balance that and make sure that there's a forward momentum, while still, of course, continue to engage and bring the voices into the room. Yeah.
Thanks, Nicole. I think, the credibility of having someone from a legal perspective really adds value to the PSET Cloud, process that we want to outline for stakeholder representation. And then, of course, it is work in progress, but we wanted to initiate something like this sooner than later. We wanted to bring on board the stakeholder voices much earlier than when the governance structure is decided, or who actually is part of the governance structure, or where the PSET Cloud would reside and who we hand over to. So I think coming in early, and we thought the conference is an ideal opportunity to reach out. And in addition to that, provide time, give, sufficient time for, delegates that are here to also then go back to their organizations, talk to their colleagues, maybe sit in their more formal structures like the 3 quality councils, and they are attending today, South African Qualifications Authority, SAQA. They have huge board representation. And so each of those board members have constituencies that they can go back to. Mustaq is, for example, from Business Unity South Africa, and he can go back to his colleagues, and then the employer sector can sort of also decide who is the best placed person as a stakeholder to represent an employer voice in the PSET, in the governance of the PSET Cloud. Because at the end of the day, it is around employment, improving employment, creating access for our young learners that come out of university, for the unemployed, for progression, for mobility in the education sector. So bringing employers closer to this through the technology is actually key and fundamental. So it's very important. We have also invited the Black Business Forum to this conference, and I'm hoping that they are attending. So you don't only have, one-sided employer voice, but it's open to all employer voices. The same with the union representatives. Lizelle gave us a nice input yesterday at the governance presentation, where she is the voice of workers. Lizelle also is on the National Skills Authority, which is also constituency driven. So we really want to get the intention out there that we are asking, calling, requesting, wanting nominations to come forward as widely as possible. And I think Lizelle also gave us some really good ideas yesterday around how do we get young voices in, the citizens' voices in, civil society voices in. There must be this balance between civil society, and I think that's why we want to go with this 2C triple P model, that we so nicely put together and presented yesterday around the engagement with people and technology, with the intent and the big vision of the PSET CLOUD. So thank you for that, Nicole. I'm not sure if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, just to say that I can see, well, just one practical thing, there are 90 people online and only 26 have voted. Are we still, is the poll still open? Can more people cast their votes? Because we would like to see as many people as possible voting so that we get a proper idea of representation, I think. And yes, I just want to say it's very unusual for me as a lawyer to be called into the room in this sort of process this early. Normally the lawyer is called in about 3 weeks too late. I find when there's something big going down and something needs to land, and the platform needed to be built 3 months ago. So just hats off to you for engaging with the research and all of this, and it's being done in a really considered consultative fashion, which I just think it's lovely to be invited in this early and not to have it all kind of woo and running at it at the last minute. It's really being done in a very, very ordered and considered way. So yes, I can see, yes, the poll is still open, but there are only 26 votes out of 90 people cast. I think everybody, if there's anybody who has a technical issue with the voting, I don't think there will be, because I think it's all on the same platform. You don't have to jump in and out. So I think it is absolutely still open. Roxana, what's your feeling? Should we wait for a couple more votes to be cast here?
We do have the time, Nicole. We're going to be introducing Eduarda very soon, but that session will start at 9:30, and I'm looking at the time. We do have about 7 minutes. So we would rather, I think, encourage the delegates to share how they view this, if they have any other considerations or ideas, to put it in the chat, ask the questions if they're not, clear about this, or why we're doing this so soon or so early. But I think I must confirm that James is very clear that we needed to start early with this consultative process. He has been leading and driving this project from inception, and has always reminded me as well, has sufficient people been invited at every step of the way? So as we shared our research reports, we went public, we went forward with our website and built on this whole program. We're finding ourselves at the right time, where this is the time to get people to seriously engage. We also very fortunate that we've got a nice core group that are with us in the reference group that is quite representative. The reference group currently has an NSA representative, which is Lizelle. We have an international expert, we have SACWA, we have the QCTO, and we want to build on that. But I see that time's up now, and we've given sufficient time for that. So I'm not sure where you are with the polls right now.
So the last votes that came in, which was 4 minutes ago, I'm just waiting for an update on that, was that of those who had voted, 70% gave full full support, 22% partial support, and there are no votes against. I think obviously those who are giving partial support, you would need to let us have your questions and your input and your comment to let us know why and what. That would be useful, I think. So if you can put those in the comments.
There is a comment from Abida right now, who agrees with the process. Abida Holstock. Do not lose the momentum, but do not let the legitimacy of the process be questioned. So absolutely. I think that is also sound advice coming from the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 68% fully supported, 23% partially, and no one has objected, and 10% preferred to abstain, which is understandable.
Okay. So and that's 39 votes cast in total. Yeah.
And I think we've also lost some of the polls as we crossed over to a new session because of the time.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. Okay. So can I just thank you for your inputs, Nicole, and being with us as a legal representative. We really appreciate it. And we feel confident that we have the legal advice as we go forward. So
thank you, Roxana. Always lovely.
Pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Cheers then.